At the Tsinghua alumni gathering, David asked me, a mediocre student, to pretend to be his girlfriend.
Emily, can you help me out? Just for tonight, pretend to be my girlfriend.
Sure, David, I said, trying to mask my nervousness. Amidst the skeptical jeers, I hooked my arm around David's neck. Boldly, I leaned in and bit his lips, then kissed him deeply. The mark is left. From now on, you're mine.
David remained indifferent, his expression as proud as a peacock. Seeing the crimson at the corner of his mouth, I was infuriated once again.
If I had the chance to go back to senior year, I would definitely teach you a lesson and make you submit to me early on.
My words came true. On the way back, I found myself transported back in time. Rebirth wasn't scary. What was terrifying was returning to the immense pressure of senior year. As a mediocre student, the thought of the upcoming exams and the inescapable influence of David made me want to slap myself for my big mouth. David and I had a complicated history growing up together. He was always the exemplary child in my parents' eyes and their ideal son-in-law. Although I wasn't interested, I lived in his shadow for years. My parents compared everything I did to him, making me fearful of relationships. In my previous life, I was single until the end, and even then he was used as a shield. As I was lamenting, a tall figure passed by. With a simple white t-shirt and black pants, he exuded youthful energy. It was David. Perfect timing, I was looking for him.
Hey, we meet again. But this time, I'll make you kneel and admit defeat.
David, probably shocked by my fierce expression, hesitated for a few seconds before pushing my hand away.
Emily, what are you doing so early in the morning? He dismissed me and walked away.
I took a deep breath to calm my anger. This guy was still pretending.
David, I challenge you. This time, I'll surpass you in the college entrance exam. If you go to Tsinghua, I'll go to Peking University.
When I finally reached the school gate, I was stunned. On my first day back, I was already late. The principal, wearing reading glasses and holding a stick, was waiting at the entrance. I saw David walk past confidently.
Good morning, Mr. Johnson, he greeted.
David, hurry to class.
Gathering my courage, I tried to follow suit, but the principal blocked my way.
Caught you. Late again. A 500-word reflection by the end of the day.
Mr. Johnson, David was also late. Why didn't you stop him?
Do you think you're the same as him? David is the top student. Even his late minutes are spent studying.
And you? You're just lazy. A 1,000-word reflection for arguing with me.
Mr. Johnson, still as nagging as ever, left me no choice but to lower my head. In my previous life, my high school grades were indeed average. David, on the other hand, had his pick of Tsinghua or Peking University, while I ended up at a mediocre college. I still remember the grandeur of David's graduation banquet. My mom insisted I attend, making me feel so embarrassed I wanted to hide under the table. If this time travel was a chance to restart my life, I was determined to seize it. Before entering the classroom, I bumped into David in the hallway. He looked at me disdainfully.
Trying to copy me? Got scolded, didn't you?
Ignoring him, I went to my seat. Flipping through my books, I felt confident in my humanities subjects, especially English, thanks to 4 years of college. Math, however, was a challenge. David excelled in science, making it hard to surpass him in that area. But I wasn't going to let that discourage me. After all, I had been to college. I could surely outdo a high school student. Our floor had 2 restrooms, east and north. To reach the east one, I had to pass by David's top class, Senior 3-1. During the break, I decided to scout the enemy's territory. Unexpectedly, I ran into the trio of fake friends, led by our school's beauty, Jessica.
You're from class 9, right? Why are you here? Get lost.
Her two sidekicks chimed in.
Jessica, she must be after David. We've seen plenty of these shameless girls with poor grades.
My temper flared. This hypocrite, secretly crushing on David, had the nerve to accuse others.
Jessica, right? You're not from class 1 either. And you too, what right do you have to talk to me like that?
Years later, I ran into Jessica on the street. She was with a rich kid in a sports car while I was waiting for the bus.
Isn't this Emily? Still following David around for nothing.
Who said I came here for David?
Jessica's expression changed quickly.
True, David is from a prestigious school now. He'll definitely have a bright future and won't bother looking at you again.
Jessica, you like David, don't you?
Jessica nearly twisted her ankle in her high heels, then burst into laughter.
What a joke. Do you think I can't get any man I want? Why would I fancy that brat?
I didn't know that on the night of our senior graduation party, Jessica had confessed her feelings to David. David, in his refusal, had used me as an excuse.
Sorry, I have a childhood friend. I, David, cannot betray her.
At that moment, standing at the classroom door, Jessica heard me talking back. With her two sidekicks backing her up, she was even more furious.
All right then, how about we make a bet on this afternoon's English test? If you score lower than me, you have to apologize to me in front of David.
Fine, it's a deal.
Ha! As if a university-level English major like me would lose to a high school student. I vaguely heard her sidekicks mocking me.
Jessica, this fool has no idea you have connections. For a test like this, you can score as high as you want.
Sure, Jessica's family had connections, but even if she could pull strings for regular exams, let's see her try that with major ones.
Back in the classroom, to avoid any slip-ups, I quickly reviewed the English texts and recent test papers. I was confident about the afternoon's English test. Even if Jessica had the answers, I doubted she could memorize them all. When the English test was handed out in the afternoon, I took a look and found it simple. In no time, I had completed a satisfactory paper with my fluent writing. No wonder I majored in foreign languages. I'm just excellent. But after the test, for some reason, perhaps out of boredom, I started reminiscing about the past. That brat's face kept popping into my mind.
Why was I thinking about him? He was just a sharp-tongued, arrogant guy.
After the test, the teacher let us study freely. As I was diligently working, I heard something tapping on the glass. I looked up to see David's youthful, handsome face reflected in the window. He beckoned me with his finger, signaling me to come out.
David, what do you want? Can't you see I'm in a self-study session?
I heard you were wandering outside my classroom during the break this morning and made a bet with Miss High and Mighty Jessica. And the bet involves me.
I cursed inwardly. High school gossip is the worst. Rumors can really ruin lives.
It wasn't my idea, it was Jessica's. And don't worry, I won't lose.
David, perhaps surprised to see me so confident, smiled a particularly charming smile. It reminded me of him during our university days. That night it was snowing heavily. He called to tell me he was waiting at the school gate. We had just had a fight, so I didn't want to see him. But eventually, out of pity and fear he might freeze, I sneaked out and saw him standing in the cold night. He looked up at the falling snow, his delicate profile and slightly upturned lips, making him look like a beautiful landscape painting.
Wow, Emily, don't underestimate yourself. When the scores are out tomorrow, don't come crying to me for help.
Don't worry, I'm confident in my English. I'll definitely score higher than you. You should worry about yourself.
Sad after school, Emily sat on her bed, regretting her actions. How could she still be infatuated with David's youthful face, even as a high school student? Thoughtful, I should have acted more aloof and mature in front of him.
Suddenly, her phone buzzed. She saw a private message from David.
Serious, Emily, you're about to become famous at our school. Take a look for yourself.
Attached was a screenshot of a chat filled with slander.
Unfriendly, do you know Emily from class 9? She went up to David today and claimed she could score higher than him on the English test. Unfriendly, she either cheated or stole the test paper. We need to expose this kind of behavior in our school. Shouting, give her a 0. Sad, Emily couldn't believe that her conversation with David had been overheard and spread around so quickly. She naturally suspected Jessica was behind these rumors. Worried if she goes to the teachers with this, they might believe her first. My solid grades might be misunderstood tomorrow.
The next day, as soon as Emily arrived at the classroom, before the English test results were even announced, Mr. Smith called her to the office.
Serious, Emily, it's okay if your grades aren't great, but you can't cheat. Proud, Mr. Smith, I didn't cheat. Angry, out of 130 points, you scored 128. David, who is the top student in the grade, only scored 126. Do you still think this score is real?
Hearing that she had actually surpassed David, Emily felt a surge of pride and completely tuned out the teacher's reprimand. Seeing her unrepentant attitude, Mr. Smith wanted her to write a self-reflection. Just then, Mr. Brown, the dean, walked into the office.
Shouting, Emily, you still owe me a self-reflection for being late last time, and now you've been caught cheating again. You're really something.
Being scolded by 2 teachers at once, Emily couldn't argue her way out.
Resigned, teachers, I'll try to score lower next time. Shouting, all right, we can't teach you anymore. Call your parents.
This hit Emily's weak spot.
Desperate, please, teachers, why don't you test me right now, whether it's speaking, writing, or listening? If I fail, I'll accept that my test score is invalid. Hopeful, finally, the teachers gave her a chance to prove her innocence. With both Mr. Smith and Mr. Brown watching, she listened to the dialogues on the radio and easily filled in the answers.
The teachers carefully checked her answers, their expressions becoming more nuanced.
Cheerful, so, teachers, did I get everything right? If you still don't believe me, you can test me with something else. Serious, Emily, it's commendable that you've been working hard lately. Keep it up and don't get arrogant. Hopeful, so, about the rumors of me cheating? Reassuring, don't worry, the teachers will handle it.
Emily left the office with her head held high. But she couldn't let Jessica, the instigator, get away with it. She sent a message to David in advance.
Serious, David, you promised. I scored higher than you on the English test. Meet me at the small grove behind the school.
After sending the message, she headed straight to class 2.
Shouting, Jessica, a bet's a bet. I got the highest score in English. You need to apologize to me in front of David.
Instantly, she was bombarded with insults.
Unfriendly, cheater, liar, who knows how you got that score, and you still dare to show off.
Emily blocked out the insults and stood her ground. To uphold justice, Jessica swaggered out.
Unfriendly, Emily, stop trying to make yourself look good. I'm already being lenient by not pursuing this.
Emily was about to retort when a deep, rich voice cut in first.
Serious, a bet's a bet. I lost to Emily, so I have to accept it. Miss Jessica, are you a sore loser?
Emily saw Jessica's previously smug face turn into one of consternation. Emily turned around in surprise, meeting a pair of clear, bright eyes.
Serious, David helping me? It must be my imagination. Jessica, who had been flaunting her arrogance moments ago, suddenly turned demure. Shy David, I didn't make a bet with Emily. It's all just rumors. Whispering, and some classmates are saying Emily cheated this time. Otherwise, with her grades, it's one thing to surpass me, but how could she possibly surpass you?
I looked at this obvious manipulator in front of me, trying to clear her name while sowing discord.
Serious, Miss Jessica, it's only natural for someone to surpass you. Sarcastic, but Emily, your performance this time was indeed unexpected.
Jessica pouted, looking aggrieved.
Sad Emily, scoring so high is just too unusual. Everyone can't believe it, let alone me.
Jessica stomped her foot, trying to escape. I quickly blocked her path.
Serious, all right, Jessica, let's wait for the teacher's announcement. If the teacher believes me, you must apologize to me in front of the entire school.
In front of David, Jessica instantly turned into a pitiful little white rabbit.
Shy, why should I apologize? Emily, stop being so aggressive.
A sly glint flashed in my eyes as I leaned closer to her.
Serious, don't think I don't know who spread those rumors. If you dare to do it, own up to it, coward.
Jessica glared at me, wanted to curse me out, but she held back. With the help of her 2 sidekicks, she made a hasty retreat. Before David could say anything, I arrogantly tossed my head.
Serious, I'm going back to study. Don't bother me unless it's important.
Naturally, my situation spread throughout the classroom, but I ignored it until noon, when the results were posted on the bulletin board. I was far ahead in first place. Thankfully, Mr. Smith kept his promise and clarified in the classroom before lunch.
Hopeful Emily has shown that hard work pays off. Everyone should follow her example and strive for the college entrance exams.
The classroom buzzed with activity, but I knew everyone probably thought I just got lucky. I would prove with my actions that my success was due to genuine talent and hard work. When I went to the cafeteria for lunch, my deskmate walked closely beside me.
Friendly Emily, can you teach me how to improve my English so quickly?
I glanced at her. There were no shortcuts. I had traveled back from being a college graduate.
Cheerful, just luck.
My words were overheard by the trio of fake friends.
Unfriendly, she just got lucky. There's no secret. Unfriendly, if you can be first every time, then I'll be impressed. Unfriendly, exactly, just one good test, and she's showing off.
I took a deep breath, raised my head, and looked down at the 3 gossipers.
Serious, don't worry. I'll prove with my strength that I'll be first in English next time, and the time after that.
The trio's mocking laughter echoed around. Jessica flipped her hair and walked up to me.
Unfriendly Emily, since you're so confident, dare to participate in the English speech contest? Unfriendly, but our school only has one spot, and that's David's. You'll have to find a way to take it from him.
Her 2 sidekicks joined in the taunting.
Unfriendly Jessica, you're giving her too much credit. They're all top students. Unfriendly, I think Emily would be better off buying a lottery ticket after school.
I chose to let their words go in one ear and out the other, but the name Sarah caught my attention. If I remember correctly, Sarah. Just as the 3 of them were hurling insults, I interrupted with a calm expression and a loud voice.
Shut up. It's just an English speech contest. I'll participate.
Jessica sneered at her 2 sidekicks.
Did you hear that? She's really going to embarrass herself. Emily, someone like you thinks you can beat David.
It's just David. If I can beat him once, I can beat him a second time. Don't worry, I'll secure a spot from the teacher.
With that, I left the 3 of them staring in disbelief. After finally getting my meal in peace, I sat down. Suddenly, a chicken drumstick appeared on my plate. I looked up to see David, his dark eyes sparkling with mischief.
What do you mean by this?
It's to boost your brain power. Aren't you challenging me in the English speech contest?
News travels fast like a leaky wall.
Yes, but I don't need brain food. Take your drumstick back.
I quickly reached for the drumstick with my chopsticks. I was fast, but he was faster.
Once given, it can't be taken back. Just eat it.
As I buried my head in my food, my deskmate appeared right on time.
Emily, don't let Jessica lead you by the nose. That English speech contest is tough. Just getting past the teacher is.
You're wrong. I'll trample them all underfoot.
After lunch, I skipped my nap and headed straight to the teacher's office. I marched up to Mr. Smith's desk.
Teacher, I want to participate in the English speech contest.
Mr. Smith stared at me for a few seconds, hesitating.
Emily, your English test scores have improved, but this speech contest has very high requirements for spoken English.
He was basically telling me to give up. I glanced around and said,
Teacher, you can test my spoken English directly, or give me a topic to answer on the spot.
Mr. Smith was moved by my seriousness and agreed to assess me. During our conversation, my pronunciation was flawless, and my thinking was quick. I saw a look of surprise and delight on Mr. Smith's face. In the end, Mr. Smith excitedly grabbed my hand.
Emily, you're a hidden gem. You should have shown your abilities like this earlier.
Teacher, I heard there's only one spot for the English speech contest in the whole school.
I'll talk to the higher-ups. As a teacher, I should give outstanding students more opportunities to shine.
I thanked Mr. Smith and left the office feeling triumphant. As soon as I stepped out, I bumped into David leaning against the railing. His handsome, innocent face paired with the school uniform gave off a pure, yet alluring vibe.
Hey, Emily, you really went to see the teacher. Did you get kicked out?
As expected, this guy had no good intentions and was here to see me fail.
Sorry to disappoint you, kid. I'm afraid you'll be let down. Don't worry, I'll have plenty of time to drive you crazy with despair.
I approached him with a confident stride. He probably didn't expect me to tease him like this and was momentarily stunned. As he stood there flustered, I flicked my high ponytail and turned away briskly. Kiddo, you're still just a high schooler, a bit too green. Behind me, I vaguely heard his low, slightly embarrassed voice.
Emily, stop calling yourself sis. I'm older than you, okay?
In the evening after school, I always felt a shadow trailing behind me.
These days, news about young women being harmed on their way home at night is not uncommon.
I took a deep breath, grabbed my backpack, and was about to swing it.
Emily, it's me. Why are you so violent now?
I finally saw clearly and couldn't hide my anger.
David, are you out of your mind? Why are you sneaking around following me?
I'm not following you. This is also my way home.
With your long legs, you're always the first to disappear after school. Are you going to explain or not?
In the end, I raised my hand in anger.
I'm just curious, how did you convince the teacher to let you participate in the English speech contest?
Hearing this, I looked at him with a strange expression.
David, I didn't expect you to be so curious. Do you really want to know my secret?
David might have realized his behavior was a bit off and returned to his haughty demeanor.
Forget it if you don't want to say.
I laughed and caught up with him, poking his back with my finger.
Actually, if you were a bit nicer, I might tell you.
Emily, stop teasing me.
I noticed a hint of unusual redness on his usually calm and indifferent face. I found it even more amusing. Little did he know he was completely under my control now. Until we reached the entrance of my neighborhood, David paused.
Emily, I don't care what shortcut you took for English, but for math, No matter what tricks you use, it won't work if you're not smart.
This brat never misses a chance to hit my sore spot. I angrily picked up a stone from the ground and threw it at him.
Mind your own business and go home.
The stone hit the back of his head perfectly. He clutched his head, turned around, and gave me a cold look.
Emily, you're impossible.
Just as I was about to swing my backpack and teach him a lesson, he had already disappeared. Time flew by, and before I knew it, a week had passed. On the rare day off during the weekend, I still had to use it to participate in the English speech contest.
I was just thinking that I wasn't familiar with the venue and might need to take a taxi there in the morning.
Before going to bed, David, surprisingly kind for once, sent me a message.
Emily, I'll go to the competition venue with you tomorrow.
His sudden reasonableness made me suspicious.
No need, I can go by myself.
Emily, you're overthinking. I'm just making sure you don't bail halfway. After all, I've participated in such competitions before, and the teacher asked me to guide you.
If he were in front of me, I would have smacked him with my phone.
Fine, come if you want. Let's see if I run away.
The next day, I was still asleep when my mom's loud voice woke me up.
Emily, get up. David has been waiting for you at our house for a while.
What? That brat is here?
My mom immediately smacked my head.
Watch your mouth. It's rare for David to come over. You should let him help you with your studies.
After saying that, my mom happily went out to entertain David. As I brushed my teeth, I couldn't help but sneak into the living room to take a peek.
David was really good at pretending to be a well-mannered and knowledgeable person in front of my mom. A typical model student and ideal son-in-law. To prevent him from brainwashing my mom any further, I hurried up my morning routine.
I rushed out and headed straight for the door to put on my shoes.
Mom, I'm heading out.
I completely ignored David, who was still sitting on the sofa.
How can you be so rude? Didn't you see David here?
It's okay, Auntie. Emily and I are going out together today.
As long as you're with Emily, I'm relieved. Emily, don't trouble David.
I slammed the door behind me and headed to the entrance of our neighborhood, about to hail a taxi to shake off this persistent guy.
Why waste money on a taxi? Hop on, I'll take you.
I turned my head away, ignoring him. David kept ringing the bell, subtly pressuring me.
What now? Should I call Auntie and tell her you're not cooperating?
Suppressing my anger, I reluctantly sat on the back seat, bumping my lower back in the process. As I looked at his slender back, I couldn't help but curse him silently. Halfway through, he stopped and came back with breakfast. When he handed me the warm food, I almost suspected he had tampered with it.
If you go hungry, you'll just use it as an excuse for a poor performance later.
I immediately started devouring the buns and drinking the soy milk. Just as we arrived at the venue, we ran into Sarah. She was already mingling with a small group.
David, we meet again on the field. This time, I won't lose to you.
See you on the field then.
Noticing David's indifferent response, Sarah turned her attention to me.
And who might this be? You look unfamiliar.
Hi Sarah, nice to meet you. We'll get to know each other soon.
Her small group gathered around, and Sarah gracefully shook my hand. But as soon as I turned to follow David inside, I could hear the murmurs behind me.
Who is that girl with David? Never seen her before.
Isn't there only one spot per school? How did she get in?
Did she pull some strings or what?
Feels like the competition standards have dropped.
I was used to it, being a newcomer in such competitions.
If you want to shut them up, Just crush them with your skills.
I was momentarily stunned, then smiled and moved in front of him.
What, are you worried about me and trying to encourage me?
David, caught off guard by my enthusiasm, looked a bit flustered.
They all know you're from my school. I just don't want you to tarnish our reputation.
In the past, I might not have understood his emotions, but now it was clear he was being insincere.
David, since you're so concerned about me, I promise I won't let our school down. I'll outshine both you and Sarah.
David stared at me for a few seconds until Sarah's sweet voice interrupted.
David, let's go register together.
Yeah, go together, David.
No need.
I followed David closely, mainly because I was unfamiliar with the venue and feared getting lost. The murmurs behind us twisted the situation into something else entirely.
Could she be David's girlfriend? Why is she always following him around?
Mr. Smith greeted us inside.
David, just perform as usual. Emily, it's your first time participating, so stay calm and just take part.
We then drew our competition numbers and waited in the backstage area. I drew a middle number while David's was closer to the front. At that moment, Sarah ran over.
David, I'm number 5 today. What about you?
David, probably tired of being asked, showed his number briefly.
Number 3 is pretty early. You should get ready.
After showing her concern for David, Sarah finally noticed me.
Emily, what's your number?
Number 10, right after you two finish your speeches.
David and I are old rivals, so don't feel too pressured. Just participate.
I smiled slightly. Sarah's level was much higher than Jessica's. After all, she was a true academic star with a right to be proud. During this time, I listened to the first contestant's performance. In the backstage area, other contestants were nervously clutching their speech scripts, except for David and me, who were empty-handed.
Emily, where's your speech script? Did you leave it at home?
No, I don't need to look at it anymore.
As soon as I finished speaking, there was a burst of laughter in the backstage area. Sarah rolled her speech script, her expression towards me becoming a bit nuanced.
Emily, you're really confident. I thought only David was like that.
Emily, not bad, you're learning well.
Who says cramming before the test is more effective?
Brilliant!
I stood up proudly and translated that sentence into English. After speaking, I didn't bother with anyone's reactions and went outside for some fresh air. But the corridor outside wasn't quiet either. The first contestant, who had just finished their speech, was lamenting.
I was too nervous just now and made mistakes. This is bad. I was hoping to get extra points for the college entrance exam from this competition.
I caught the key point. Extra points for the college entrance exam. This could make up for my weak math scores. Looks like I need to bring out my best. Honestly, this was my first time listening to David's live English speech. His stage presence was steady, pronunciation perfect, and speech fluent. No wonder everyone held him in high regard. When David came off the stage, Mr. Smith enthusiastically patted his shoulder.
David, you didn't let us down. Our school's reputation depends on you.
Even with the praise, David's handsome face remained indifferent. I noticed his gaze seemed to be searching for something. I quickly shrank back. Could he be looking for me? I only listened briefly to the other contestants until Sarah took the stage. Naturally, I had to listen carefully to understand the level of both David and Sarah. After Sarah finished her speech, there was a round of enthusiastic applause from the audience. I guess the judges' scores would be very close to David's. Sure enough, there was only a 0.5 point difference. Currently, David was ranked first. Next up were the remaining contestants, but David was still far ahead.
Emily, do your best.
I raised an eyebrow, not willing to show any weakness. Standing on the stage, I felt a bit nervous, but thinking about those who underestimated me, and imagining David possibly hiding somewhere to laugh at me, I turned my frustration into motivation, becoming more and more passionate as I spoke. At the end, I bowed to the audience and heard a wave of applause. I had completely demonstrated my professional English skills. I noticed the judges discussing intensely below the stage. However, the final score left me a bit disappointed. It was tied with David's.
How could this be? I was supposed to surpass him.
But I knew that discussing scores on stage was a big no-no. I still had a chance. I could wait until all the contestants finished their speeches and then propose a tiebreaker to the judges. With this thought in mind, I returned backstage. The girls who had looked down on me earlier immediately fell silent, only daring to steal glances at me.
Emily, I didn't expect you to be so good, tying with David. Can you tell us how you usually practice?
She praised me but also set a trap. I knew that saying nothing at this moment would make me seem arrogant.
Well, I like to get up early and find a quiet place to memorize vocabulary.
Sarah wanted to ask more, but David appeared out of nowhere and pulled me away. With his absolute height advantage, he looked me up and down with an inscrutable expression.
Emily, your progress is almost eerie.
What a jerk. I jumped up in anger and gave him a good knock on the head.
Brat, can't you speak properly? Just because you're good doesn't mean I can't be better. After this round, I still want to challenge you. I'll propose a tiebreaker to the judges.
Fine, let's see what else you've got.
We waited backstage for about half an hour until all the contestants had finished. The teachers called David and me in separately.
Mr. Johnson, I request a tiebreaker. The judges can give us a random topic, and I'll go on stage immediately.
Emily, this is very challenging without any preparation.
Mr. Johnson, I can do it.
The teachers then turned to David.
David, do you have any thoughts?
I have no objections. Let's do as she says.
I went on stage first. After the judges gave the topic, I quickly delivered a perfect performance. If I couldn't handle this level of impromptu speaking, how could I ever get my level 8 English certificate? As I took my bow, I made sure to raise an eyebrow at David. My performance received unanimous approval from the judges, but what I didn't expect was that David would suddenly back out.
Mr. Johnson, I choose to forfeit the tiebreaker and also withdraw from this competition.
The teachers were stunned and tried to persuade him, but David left the stage without looking back. I wanted to chase after him, but Mr. Smith stopped me in time. After all, my victory was well-deserved. Sarah and I stood on the podium together, with Sarah holding a bouquet of flowers.
I heard David withdrew midway. What happened? Was he trying to concede?
Her words implied that I was the villain here. As soon as I left the stage, I looked everywhere for David. I found him at the entrance looking nonchalant, balancing on his bike, with one foot on the ground. Just as I was about to scold him, he tossed me a bottle of juice.
Our champion deserves a treat.
Emily held back her temper and walked over to David.
David, why? Everyone here thinks I affected you, making my championship win seem undeserved.
David suddenly avoided her gaze and looked up at the sky.
Who cares what others say? At least I think you're worthy. Emily, not many people get my approval.
On Monday, everyone knew Emily had replaced David and surprisingly brought home the speech contest championship. The first to jump up in anger was, of course, Jessica. After the flag-raising ceremony, Emily saw Jessica still being stubborn and deliberately stopped her.
Miss Jessica, you've lost to me twice in a row. Remember to apologize to me on stage at tomorrow's flag-raising ceremony.
In your dreams. Who knows what tricks you played?
Emily smiled mischievously and leaned closer to Jessica.
Fine, then I'll go tell David about your secret admiration for him.
Instantly, Jessica's face showed panic.
You don't talk nonsense.
Apologize, or I'll reveal your secret. Your choice.
That day, Jessica was under a lot of psychological pressure. The next day, at the flag-raising ceremony, she publicly apologized to Emily. Unexpectedly, as soon as Jessica stepped down, someone else took the stage.
Emily, you won fair and square this time. I don't want to hear any more gossip about it.
Amidst the screams of the female students, Emily was stunned. David, such a proud person, actually stood up for her and cleared the rumors. Is he out of his mind? Even after the event ended, Emily was still in a daze. Someone tapped her shoulder from behind. Emily looked up and met a pair of eyes as bright as stars.
Emily, you won against me once, and now you're acting all high and mighty.
Who's acting high and mighty? I don't fear rumors, and I don't need you.
The next second, a calm voice brushed past her ear.
Dare to bet with me again? Confident we can both get into Tsinghua University?
I'm aiming for Peking University.
All right, it's a deal.
Emily almost fled in confusion, probably stunned by David's actions over the past 2 days. After that, she threw herself into even more intense studying. One day, she found David sitting on her living room sofa. In a daze, Emily heard her mom warmly say,
Emily, it's rare for David to come over and study with you. The study room is all set up. You two go ahead.
Her mom pushed her all the way to the study room. Just as Emily was about to get up, David walked in, and the door closed behind him.
What's going on?
A balanced study partnership helps both improve.
Though Emily verbally refused, she had to admit that David's approach to solving math problems was much more effective than her struggling alone. On June 7th, Emily entered the college entrance exam room once again. Compared to last time, she felt much more confident. After 3 days of exams, she walked out of the exam room and immediately received a message from David.
How did it go? Can you fulfill our bet?
I did exceptionally well. You should worry about yourself.
At the senior graduation party, many classmates envied Emily's results.
Emily, I heard you did great this time, top in humanities in our city.
Just lucky.
At that moment, Emily's eyes unintentionally met David's, who was surrounded by a group of people. David walked towards her step by step.
Congratulations, Emily. Did you apply to Peking University?
Of course. Yu Tsinghua, me Peking University, as promised.
During the rest of the summer vacation, Emily's parents were very generous because of her good results and even organized a family trip. During the holiday, she didn't specifically contact David. Finally, it was time for school to start. Emily's parents insisted on escorting her to school, but she firmly declined. On the day she boarded the train, the person accompanying her turned out to be David.
Your parents were worried and asked me to accompany you. It's on my way anyway.
Emily realized her parents had set her up, but she endured it. When they finally arrived, she got off the train, and David followed.
Why are you still following me?
Did you forget? Peking University and Tsinghua University are just across the street from each other.
They took the same taxi, and Emily spoke first.
Driver, to Peking University.
Upon arrival, Emily couldn't wait to get out and rushed towards the school gate. Behind her, David, pushing 2 suitcases, called out to her.
Emily, you're leaving your suitcase behind.
Emily reluctantly turned back and grabbed her suitcase.
Thanks, see you.
I forgot to tell you, I also applied to Peking University. We're schoolmates.